Hey, this is Rich over at TVP Live with yet another quick tips brought to you by Adobe Photoshop Elements Tutorials Group. And let's jump right into today's poster. I wanted to know how to recreate this graphic and make the lines a little bit less jaggedy or flat on the edges and recreate this kind of a smile down here. Okay, first of all, the first issue with this graphic that you're trying to create is that it's too small. And what I mean by that is if you look up here, if I zoom in, you're going to see the jaggies. The reason these are all jaggy on the edges like that is because it's too small. Look at the size here. Up here, here's the beginning of the ruler. This is 1 inch, 2 inches, almost 3 inches. It's almost like the size of a thumbnail. It's tiny. When you get that small, any round circle is going to be jaggy. That's the problem. So I'm going to unlock and show you what we can do. So if I unlock the picture, and let's make the canvas a lot bigger so we can redraw a new one a lot bigger. So I'm going to go to Image, resize the canvas here, and let's make that, oh, I don't know, let's say 25 inches by 25 inches. It'll make it a much bigger square. As soon as I hit OK, boom, you can see all this extra space. Let's zoom out and see how much space we have to work with. Now it's going to be a 25 by 25 inch picture. And if I make this bigger, it's still going to be jaggy, right? I'm grabbing the corners. But it gives us a template to be able to make a new circle that's less jaggy. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer. So up here I'll create a new layer, blank layer, and let's turn on the grid so we can see the circle that we're building. So if you go to View, come down to Grid and turn it on, and there it is. It's set to probably like 1 inch or so, a 1 inch spacing at a time. You can see right here it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. So I'll go to Edit, Preferences, and then right down here, Guiding Grids. And it's set right here to every 1 inch. I'm going to go ahead and set that to every 2 inches. And you can see it gets a lot bigger over here. I'm going to hit OK. And so now, as long as the View Snap to Grid is turned on, which it is, then when I draw a circle, it'll snap to these grids so I can make perfect circles. So if I go to the square box up here, but since I want a circle, I come down here and change that to a circle. And now that, as long as we're on a new layer, we're going to draw a new circle. I want to try to get close to the edge of these grid lines here, and I'll go from here all the way down to this corner here. And you can see it snaps automatically to the edge there. And there we go. If I want to use the same color, I can take the eyedropper tool and click it in here in this green, and it picked it over here. Right here you can see it. Now I can take the paint bucket and go ahead and just drop it here and paint it right in. Now it made a perfectly round big green circle. I'm going to Control and D to deselect, and you can see it's right there, and this is this layer. It's on top of the old layer underneath. So now we want to have a smaller circle in here that represents part of the smile here. Let's go ahead and do that by simply doubling this circle. So I'm going to right click up here and hit Duplicate Layer. That makes you 2 layers. How do we know there's 2 layers? Let's change the color of one to white. So I'm going to go over here to the eyedropper tool. I'll pick the white here, or I can just come down here to the color palette and pick any color I want. So I'll pick white. I'll hit OK, and I'm going to take the fill bucket and then click it in here, and it made it white. The reason we can't see it is because everything else is white too. So let's make it a little bit smaller, and then you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to click this down here to the next set of lines on the grid, and we're just resizing it so it matches the previously brought up photo. And that looks pretty good. So now all we have to do is try to find the center of that white circle that we can cut a line across. How do we do that? I can create a new layer. I guess we can count the ruler here if we want on both sides. Another good way is just take a line and then take a pen and then click the color. Let's pick black or something like that. I'll hit OK. And down here, let's make the line, I don't know, like 5 points or so. And if we go from this corner of the edge of this circle, boom, and hit click, and then come down to this edge where this circle meets, and if I hold the shift, it created a line all the way down. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. I'll grab this corner and do 1 click and come down here, hold shift, and go click, and that created that corner there. Now we know where the center is. It's right along this little line right here. So if I go back to that white layer that I want to cut into half, all I have to do is grab the polygon tool, and as long as I cut along this line here. And since we have the grid on, view, grid, anywhere we choose really close to the line, we'll put it perfectly on it. I'm going to choose right there and see it's snapping to every line. I'm going to come up here to the middle, and now I can just randomly, as long as I'm within that green area, and I'll double click here, and if I hit delete, boom, that deletes the top half of the white circle, giving us that smile. Now we don't really need this X anymore, so I can take that layer and I can just right click and hit delete layer. As a matter of fact, I can delete the very bottom layer now because we don't need it anymore. I can right click and hit delete, but watch what's going to happen. Everything goes blank. So now you can change the background to any color you want. How do we do that? Create a new layer. Let's bring that to the very bottom and then pick a color. You used white, but I'm going to use a different color just to make it a little bit different. I'll do like a mauve here, something like that. I'll hit OK. Grab the paint bucket and just click in here. Because it's in the back at the bottom layer here, it'll automatically fill in the background like that. And you can change that to any color you want by simply clicking that. I want it a little more red. I'll hit OK. Grab the paint bucket and click here. Whoop. Why did it do that? Because I didn't pick which layer I want to change. Hit with the paint bucket and it turns into red. And there we go. All that's missing now, and as a matter of fact, we can turn off the grid because we don't need it anymore. And now we view your graphic exactly the way you wanted it. Let's go ahead and make the outline now. I'm going to click on the green layer, which is this one here. I'm going to right click and hit Edit Layer Style. Now we bring in the style box and we want to hit stroke. And even though it says outside, it doesn't always sit properly outside. So I'm going to click on this and choose outside once again. And this number here is the pixel width of that circle. Right now it's at 4 points. And because this is a 25 by 25, you can barely see the edge there. So if I'm going to change that to like, I don't know, 10 point, you can see it got thicker. But guess what? Look at that. Look how beautifully round that is. No jaggy edges or anything. I can even like, I don't know, go 30 and make it really thick if you want. So that looks really good. But I'm going to bring it back down to like 15. That looks pretty nice. I'll hit OK. And if you really want it to look like your photo with the white background, I'll just go ahead and choose that background, go to the color, pick the white right here, hit OK, grab the paint bucket, and once again, just click on the background and it turns it white. And there we go. No jagged edges. Everything is nice and sharp. Well, this is Rich calling it quits for this tutorial saying over and out.